everyone, Ashley, Mailloux, and Mike Gear here with the Saturday DRF race of the day out at Los Alamitos Racecourse. It's their 9th race at a mile and a 16th. It's the Grade 2 Los Al Futurity. We'll take a look at this field top to bottom, and it's a compact field, Mike. We've gotten used to this, but actually I think there's a couple horses in here that look pretty live on paper.
Yeah, I agree. It's maybe more interesting than you would think at first glance. Of course, Baffert has half the field in here. He's got the two horses who are likely to be the two favorites, drawn to the outside two posts, and Coach Prime and Wind Me Up.
There's also Moonlit Sonata on the inside, who actually raced pretty well on debut and overcame a little bit of a slow start. So it is a field of 6. We'll look at the time form US pace projections next for this event. And it looks like Wind Me Up should be forwardly placed from that outside draw. And I don't know if you saw things the same way as time form did, Mike, but it did seem like there is a fair bit of speed towards the outside and maybe a couple other runners, that might want to sit just off of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it feels like this is probably the way it's going to play out early. Wind Me Up, it just seems like this has to be his running style here in this race. From the outside, I think he'll make the lead. And I would just note, yes, I think Stronghold will go forward as he stretches out again here. But Coach Prime, I don't think they want necessarily him to be on the lead, but he's a pretty fast horse.
He is pretty fast. He was fast on debut. It was on the turf, but last time out, he was able to sit and make a late move. Now, we'll kick the field off here with the number 1, Moonlit Sonata. This one of the Tim Yock Teen Barn. Only one start under his belt. We'll take a look at that most recent performance. It was at Del Mar towards the end of November. And as I mentioned earlier, Mike, he didn't break the sharpest, but I don't think he needed to. I'm not sure what he beat this day, but the way that he's going to kind of draw clear here on the outside and pass a couple of rivals was pretty impressive for a debut.
I agree. This horse runs really well in here. It's one of those situations, it can be hard to evaluate. This horse is the longest shot on the board in this race. Like they didn't really expect him to run, but he always, to me anyway, looked like he was going to win this race. He traveled very strongly on the outside. I like the way he got clear at the end of that race. He was a huge price. He did not luck into that win.
Do you think going from 6.5 to a mile and a 16th, a little bit of a tall task, or do you think, based on that one start, his running style might be okay for it?
Never easy to, stretch out in distance for the first time in particular, but this horse has tons of distance in his pedigree. I'm not really worried about him stretching out.
Absolutely. The 2 win stock next here is for Bob Baffert. Finally was able to graduate last time out. Now that was back in middle of October. The main changes would have been the distance and that he was actually forwardly placed in that event.
Yeah, they made a conscious effort to get him forward. He broke from the rail. He was under a ride right from the start of that race. He eventually made his way to the lead, and then I don't know, he won easy, but he never faced a challenge in there. Kind of feels like he beat a bad field, and I didn't see him making the lead this time.
Right. I guess on paper, he might be the weakest of the 3 Bob Baffert runners in this field. The next is Stronghold, who last time out was second in the Bob Hope. I thought about pulling the replay, but when we talk about this race, Mike, it was only 4 horses in the field, and Nizos was much the best. I guess if you want to say anything, though, he was able to transfer his form to the West Coast.
Yeah, exactly. He ran well in his first 2 starts. He ran fine last time. He just happened to run into maybe Baffert's best 2-year-old in Nizos, who just absolutely smashed that field through the stretch. This horse did what he could. He was only second best in there. Another horse who has plenty of pedigree to stretch out here. He's got a little bit of speed, but he doesn't need the lead. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if he won this race.
The 4 Ace of Clubs is next. This one trained by Doug O'Neill. Started his career on the dirt sprinting, then went to a couple of turf races at a mile. Not sure what to make out of him. His dirt races, they're all right, but from a numbers perspective, maybe a step below this bunch.
Just looks a little slow on paper. I actually think he's a 2-time winner on dirt, which, is a little bit of a feather in his cap. I thought he ran really well in both of those races. I know the figures say he's too slow. I like him getting back to dirt in this race. He's bred to stretch out. He's probably going to be the longest shot on the board. I wouldn't bet him to win. I could use him underneath.
Next is Coach Prime out of post position 5, a son of Quality Road, who was 3rd on debut. Now they debuted him on the turf, which is a little bit interesting for Bob Baffert. Then they switched him to the main track, and we'll take a look at this performance where he's able to just crush his competition, ends up winning this race, by over 7.
Yeah, the trip works out for him. You see he got the seam there that he needed in the upper stretch, but he settles this thing very quickly once he gets room to run here. I thought it was a pretty impressive maiden win. He also ran really well on turf first time out. I wonder if he was just in that race because they were looking for distance with this horse. They paid a ton of money for him. He's got a lot of pedigree behind him. He was really good winning last time, and he's got easy speed. They're not going to try to make the lead with him here, but he's got easy speed. He's going to get a good trip in this race.
You mentioned the purchase price, 1.7 million, and even the fractions of that race obviously helped him last time out, but he wasn't that far off of it. It's not like he came from the clouds in that race back on November 10th at Del Mar. We'll round out the field here with the number 6, Wind Me Up. We'll take a look at his effort two back. We're not going to show the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's simply kind of outclassed in there. But here, again, he's got to face Muth, the stablemate, and he's just going to be second best.
Yeah, he's just no match. He had an easy trip in this race, and he's just not as good as his stablemate. You're right. You just don't want to hold the Breeders' Cup against him. He was just in over his head there. So you go back and you judge him off of this race. I don't really know what to say. He runs an 85 buyer speed figure. He's only second best. I didn't think that he ran that well in there, but he's probably the horse to beat in this field.
The only other thing I noticed, Mike, I don't know if you saw it, Bob Baffert and Hernandez at Los Al, just a light 72%. So thought that was interesting to note for that one from Bob Baffert. As we mentioned, he does have half the field in here. But before we go to top pick time, don't forget to click to get all of your DRF Race of the Day access, as well as stories and any of your other handicapping needs with our products. Top pick time. I assume you used a Baffert, but we're going to go with different Bafferts in here. Mike, you go with Coach Prime.
Yeah, I would much rather bet this horse. We'll see how they wind up betting it, I guess. I don't know how much of a discrepancy there'll be in price. Maybe Wind Me Up's race 2 back points him out. His performance there just left me a little cold. I didn't really want to bet him in here. I think Coach Prime's the better horse.
Yeah, I was torn between them, and honestly, I looked at Coach Prime for a little bit, but that stat I mentioned convinced me that maybe this is the better of the two, and just like that he's been able to go a mile and a 16th a couple of times. Now, we both use Moonlit Sonata underneath. I think this horse just has intrigue stretching out, but you talked about Ace of Clubs. You're going to give this one a shot underneath at a big price, likely.
I'll try to throw him in under there. I just think he's maybe a little bit underrated. This is still a tough spot for him. Moonlit Sonata, though, he ran really well first time out.
All right, that's 514 for Mike, 613 for me. It's the Los Al Futurity. It's race number 9 this Saturday at Los Al. Good luck.